Stop watching right now if you're unprepared. I mean it. What you're about to learn becomes permanent knowledge. Once you understand how to recognize these three specific words, you'll detect them constantly. In every dialogue, every transaction, every commitment, every connection. And you'll instantly distinguish between what someone genuinely wants from you versus the performance they're presenting. This isn't a psychological gimmick. This isn't another self-improvement construct. This is operational intelligence, deployed by powerful individuals for half a millennium to distinguish reality from theater. Niccolò Machiavelli comprehended this when he composed The Prince in 1513. He wasn't merely documenting political maneuvering. He was recording how Renaissance rulers detected deception, recognized disloyal counselors, and interpreted true intentions through linguistic patterns people employed. The identical patterns he witnessed in Florentine power structures exist in every conversation you experience today. The same linguistic indicators that expose a courtier's genuine allegiance expose your colleague's actual motivations. The same verbal instruments that ambitious aristocrats deployed to manipulate princes are being deployed against you right now. Your grandfather might have possessed this knowledge. His grandfather certainly did. But somewhere across generations, they ceased transmitting it. Because men who can interpret intentions are harder to manipulate, harder to control, harder to exploit. I'm delivering three words to you, not complex, not obscure. Words you've encountered thousands of times and never registered their actual significance. But once you comprehend what these words expose about the person speaking them, you'll never be deceived the same way again. You'll never be ambushed. You'll never question why someone betrayed you, because you'll have detected it coming the instant they began speaking. This is forbidden knowledge, not because it violates law, but because it's dangerous to those who profit from your ignorance. Final opportunity to stop watching. Still here? Excellent. Let's begin. The first word is straightforward. You encounter it daily. You probably deploy it yourself without consideration. The word is just. As in, I'm just trying to help. I'm just saying. It's just a suggestion. I was just wondering. Can I just ask you something? Sounds innocuous, correct, polite, even humble. It isn't. Machiavelli wrote extensively about the danger of advisors who minimize their own ambitions while pursuing them. In The Prince, he warned that the most hazardous courtiers are those who appear modest while maneuvering for advantage. Just is the contemporary equivalent of what Machiavelli termed false humility. It's a verbal instrument that courtiers deployed in Renaissance Florence and that people deploy against you today. Here's what just accomplishes. It diminishes. It makes whatever follows it appear smaller, less significant, less threatening than it actually is. When someone states, "I'm just trying to help," what they're genuinely communicating is, "I'm about to criticize you, control you, or impose my agenda on you. But I'm framing it as assistance, so you cannot object without appearing ungrateful." Machiavelli observed this precise pattern in advisors who would approach princes with, "I merely suggest," or "I only wish to offer counsel." The word merely, the word only, the word just, all serve the identical function, disguise ambition as service. When someone states, "I'm just saying," what they mean is, "I'm about to articulate something I know you won't appreciate, and I'm preemptively deflecting your reaction by making it seem casual and insignificant." When someone states, "Can I just ask you something?" they're not requesting permission. They're softening an intrusion. They're going to ask regardless. The just exists to make you feel like refusing would be unreasonable. Just is the verbal equivalent of a blade concealed behind a smile. Machiavelli understood that powerful men must learn to perceive through this disguise. In chapter 22 of The Prince, he writes about how to select ministers and advisors. One of his crucial tests. Does this person communicate directly, or do they constantly soften their words to avoid accountability? A quality advisor communicates plainly. They state this policy will collapse. This alliance is hazardous. This decision is incorrect. A false advisor states, I just think we might want to consider. I'm just wondering if perhaps. It's just that I'm slightly concerned. The distinction? The quality advisor is willing to be held accountable for their counsel. The false advisor is protecting themselves. They want influence without responsibility. They want to guide your decisions while maintaining plausible deniability if circumstances deteriorate. Now, here's why this matters for power dynamics. People who deploy just frequently are executing one of two things. Either they're attempting to slip something past your defenses by making it seem harmless, or they're positioning themselves as non-threatening when they're actually calculating. Watch for it in negotiations. Watch for it in relationships. Watch for it in any situation where someone wants something from you. I just think it would be better if. Translation: I want you to execute what I want, but I'm disguising my demand as a mild opinion. I'm just checking in. Translation: I'm monitoring you because I don't trust you, but I'm calling it concern. It's just that. Translation: Here comes the genuine objection I've been withholding, but I'm introducing it like it's a minor thing. The word just is a tell, like a card player touching their face when they're bluffing. And once you start listening for it, you'll realize how frequently people deploy it when they're being manipulative. Now, here's the critical part. Watch who never deploys just. Powerful men don't soften their words. They don't minimize their statements. They don't apologize for occupying space or making demands. Machiavelli observed that genuine princes communicate with clarity and directness. They don't hedge. They don't qualify. They state what they want and expect it to be accomplished. When a man states, I need this completed by Friday, that's direct, clear, honest about intention. When a man states, I just need this completed by Friday, he's either unsure of his authority or he's attempting to manipulate you into compliance by making it seem like a small request when it isn't. Men who comprehend power don't deploy just because they don't need to conceal their intentions. They're comfortable being direct. They're comfortable with you knowing exactly what they want. Men who deploy just are either weak and seeking permission for everything they say, or they're predatory and disguising their true intentions behind false humility. Either way, it's a warning signal. And here's how you deploy this knowledge. When someone hits you with just, stop before you respond. Translate what they actually stated by removing the word. I'm just trying to help becomes, I'm trying to control you. I'm just wondering becomes, I'm demanding to know. Can I just becomes, I'm going to regardless of your answer. Now respond to what they actually meant, not what they pretended to say. Machiavelli would have termed this cutting through the veil of words to perceive the intention beneath. In his correspondence, he repeatedly advised princes to judge men not by their words, but by their actions and the structure of their language. Most people won't even realize you caught them, but you'll have positioned yourself correctly in the interaction because you understood the genuine intention from the first word. That's the power of just. One word exposes everything. The second word is even more common. You've encountered it your entire life, and you've probably been deceived with it more times than you can count. The word is but. Everything before but is deception. Everything after but is truth. Let me repeat that because this is one of the most important things you'll ever learn about human communication. Everything before but is performance. Everything after but is intention. Machiavelli understood this perfectly in The Prince. He wrote about how men articulate one thing to your face and mean another in their hearts. He observed that courtiers would praise a prince's wisdom, his generosity, his strength, and then introduce but to deliver the message they actually came to communicate. Your Highness is most generous, but the treasury grows empty. Your wisdom is unmatched, but this policy may require reconsideration. You are a great leader, but perhaps this decision was hasty. The praise is theater. The correction is the purpose of the conversation. This pattern exists in every relationship today. I love you, but. Translation: I don't love you enough to accept what comes next. I respect your opinion, but. Translation: I don't respect your opinion, and here's why you're incorrect. I'd love to help, but. Translation: I'm not helping, and here's my excuse. You're a great guy, but. Translation: You're not what I want, and here's the rejection. The word but negates everything that preceded it. It's a linguistic eraser. Whatever was stated in the first half of the sentence was merely set up for the genuine message in the second half. And here's what makes this so powerful. Most people don't realize they're executing it. They genuinely believe they're being kind by softening the blow with a compliment or agreement before delivering the truth. But you need to understand what's actually occurring. The first part of the sentence is social lubrication. It's there to make the second part easier to swallow. It's manipulation disguised as politeness. Machiavelli termed this necessary deception. In chapter 18 of The Prince, he writes that a wise prince must know how to appear one thing while executing another. But he also warns that a prince must be able to detect when others are deploying this same tactic against him. When someone states, I appreciate everything you've accomplished, but we're going in a different direction, they're not appreciating anything. They're terminating you. The appreciation is fabricated. The termination is genuine. When someone states, I think you're amazing, but I'm not ready for a relationship, they don't think you're amazing. If they did, they'd be ready. The compliment is fabricated. The rejection is genuine. When someone states, I hear what you're saying, but here's what I think, they didn't hear anything. They were waiting for you to finish so they could articulate what they already decided. The acknowledgement is fabricated. Their dismissal is genuine, but is a hinge. It's where the performance ends and the truth begins. Now here's how this plays into power dynamics. Powerful men don't deploy but to soften their message. They deliver the truth directly because they're not afraid of how you'll react. Machiavelli advised princes to be direct in their communications, especially when delivering bad news or making difficult decisions. A prince who conceals his intentions behind compliments and qualifiers appears weak and loses respect. They don't state, I think you're talented, but you're not right for this position. They state, you're not right for this position. No fabricated compliment, no softening, just the truth. They don't state, I'd like to help, but I can't right now. They state, I can't help you. Direct, honest, clear. When a man deploys but constantly, he's either weak and afraid of confrontation, or he's manipulative and using fabricated agreement to slip his genuine intentions past your defenses. Neither is someone you want to trust. Watch for but in negotiations. Watch for it in relationships. Watch for it in any situation where someone's attempting to let you down easy or disagree with you without seeming disagreeable. The moment you hear but, everything that preceded it was theater. The genuine message is coming now. And here's the tactical application. When someone deploys but, interrupt them mentally. Cross out everything they stated before it. Now listen to what comes after. I really value our friendship, But I need some space becomes I need space. That's it. That's the complete message. The friendship value was fabricated. I think you're qualified, but we're looking for someone with more experience becomes we're not hiring you. That's the decision. The qualification acknowledgement was performance. Once you strip away the performance and hear only the intention, you can respond to reality instead of the sugar-coated version they're selling you. Machiavelli would term this reading the substance beneath the style. He believed that princes who focused on how things were stated, rather than what was actually meant, were destined to be manipulated by cleverer men. Most people respond to the first half of the sentence because it's nicer. They argue with the compliment, or attempt to prove they deserve the validation that was merely fabricated bait. You're not going to execute that anymore. You're going to ignore everything before but and respond only to what comes after, because that's where the truth exists. And here's the dominance move. When someone attempts to soften a blow with but, you can cut through it immediately. They state, I think you did great work on this, but. You state, let's skip to the but. What's the issue? Watch their face. They weren't expecting you to perceive through the game. They were counting on you accepting the compliment and being easier to manage when the genuine message lands. But you didn't fall for it. You went straight to the truth. And now they know you're not someone who can be managed with verbal tricks. Machiavelli termed men who could execute this discerning princes. Men who could separate flattery from counsel, performance from true, words from intentions. That's power. One word changes everything. The third word is the most dangerous of all, because it doesn't merely reveal someone's intentions toward you. It reveals whether they perceive themselves as above you in the hierarchy. The word is should. You should do this. You should have known better. You should consider. You should really think about. Every time someone tells you what you should do, they're positioning themselves as your authority. They're claiming the right to tell you how to live, what to decide, what to think. And here's the critical part. They're executing it without earning that authority. They're simply assuming it. Machiavelli wrote extensively about this in The Prince. One of his most important observations: a prince must never allow his ministers or advisors to believe they have authority over his decisions. The moment they start telling him what he should do, rather than presenting options for him to choose, they've stopped being advisors and started being usurpers. Should is a power move disguised as advice. When someone states you should, what they're genuinely communicating is, I know better than you what's good for you, and you should submit to my judgment. That might be accurate. Maybe they do know better. Maybe they have more experience, more wisdom, more perspective. But if they were actually attempting to help you, they wouldn't deploy should. They deploy could, or might want to consider. You could try. This offers a possibility. It respects your autonomy. You should try this issues a command. It assumes obedience. The difference is massive, and it reveals everything about how that person perceives you and themselves. Machiavelli observed that in Renaissance courts, the deployment of should was a political statement. When an advisor stated to a prince, you should make peace with Florence, or you should raise taxes, they were testing the prince's authority. They were checking whether the prince would accept being directed or whether he would assert his own judgment. Weak princes accepted the should and executed what they were told. Strong princes heard the should and either ignored it or corrected the advisor. I will consider it, or you may present your reasoning, but I will decide. The response to should determines the hierarchy. People who deploy should constantly are either attempting to control you, or they genuinely believe they're superior to you, and therefore entitled to direct your behavior. Either way, it's disrespect. Watch for should in relationships. When someone tells you what you should do, should feel, should want, should think, they're not respecting you as an equal. They're treating you as subordinate, as someone who needs their guidance, as someone who can't be trusted to make their own decisions. And if you accept it, if you execute what they state, simply because they stated you should, you've confirmed their frame. You've agreed that they're above you in the hierarchy, and you need their approval to act. That's how should works. It's a test. It's checking whether you'll submit to their authority. Now, here's how powerful men handle should. They don't deploy it downward unless they actually possess authority. A father can tell his son you should because the relationship grants that authority. A boss can tell an employee you should because the structure grants that authority. But watch what occurs when someone attempts to should a man who hasn't granted them authority. They get shut down immediately. Machiavelli documented this in his observations of Lorenzo de' Medici. When advisors attempted to tell Lorenzo what he should do, he would respond by reminding them that their role was to inform, not command. Present me with facts. Give me your counsel, but do not presume to direct me. You should really reconsider this decision. I'll consider what I want to consider. No submission, no acceptance of their frame. Just a reminder that they don't possess the authority they're claiming. And here's the critical skill. When someone attempts to should you, ask yourself, have I granted this person authority over my decisions? Am I subordinate to them in this context? If the answer is no, their should is an attack. It's an attempt to claim power they don't possess. Your response options. Option 1. Ignore it completely. Don't even acknowledge they attempted to tell you what to do. This communicates that their opinion doesn't register as something you need to consider. Option 2. Reframe it. I appreciate your perspective. Then execute what you are going to execute anyway. This acknowledges they spoke while making it clear their words had no impact on your decision. Option 3. Reject it directly. I didn't ask for advice. This is nuclear. Deploy it only when someone has repeatedly attempted to claim authority they don't possess and needs to be placed. Machiavelli would recognize all three of these as prince-like responses. Responses that maintain hierarchy. Responses that remind the other person of their actual position relative to you. Most people never even notice how frequently they're being shoulded. They simply feel vaguely controlled, vaguely disrespected, vaguely like everyone around them thinks they're incompetent. That's because they are being controlled. People are constantly attempting to position themselves above you, using should. And if you don't recognize it and reject it, you've accepted subordinate status by default. And here's the dark part. Once you start listening for should, you'll realize how frequently people execute it. Friends, family, partners, co-workers. Everyone is constantly attempting to tell you what you should do, should think, should feel. Most of them don't even realize they're executing it. They think they're being helpful. But the impulse to tell someone what they should do comes from the belief that you know better than they do. And that belief, whether conscious or not, is a claim to superior position. Now, here's how you flip this. Notice who never deploys should with you. Notice who offers possibilities instead of directives. Who respects your autonomy even when they disagree with your choices. Those are the people who perceive you as an equal. Those are the people whose advice you can actually trust because it's not wrapped in a power play. Everyone else? They're attempting to manage you, control you, position themselves above you. And now you know. The moment they state should, you know exactly what's occurring, and you can respond accordingly. Machiavelli built an entire political philosophy on this understanding. Know who respects your authority and who seeks to undermine it, and you can navigate any court, any organization, any relationship structure successfully. That's the third word, and now you possess all three. So you've got 3 words now: just, but, and should. Individually, they reveal intention. Together, they're a complete map of how someone perceives you and what they're actually attempting to execute in the conversation. Listen for all three in the same interaction. When someone deploys all three, you're dealing with someone who's attempting very hard to manipulate you while appearing harmless. I'm just saying, I think you're doing great, but you should really consider a different approach. Translation: I'm minimizing my criticism so you won't get defensive. I'm fake complimenting you to soften the blow, and I'm claiming authority to tell you what to do. That's a full manipulation stack, and once you hear it, you cannot unhear it. Machiavelli would have recognized this immediately as the language of a courtier attempting to manipulate a prince while maintaining plausible loyalty. This is exactly the pattern he warned about in The Prince. Men who appear to serve while actually seeking to control. Most people respond to the surface. They hear friendliness, concern, helpfulness. They don't hear the calculation underneath. You're not most people anymore. You hear the just, and know they're concealing their genuine intention behind false modesty. You hear the but, and know the compliment was theater, masking the genuine message. You hear the should, and know they're testing whether you'll submit to their claimed authority. Now you respond to what's actually occurring, not what they're pretending is occurring. And that's power. That's the difference between men who get exploited and men who perceive it coming and shut it down before it starts. This is what Machiavelli taught. This is what Renaissance princes learned to survive in courts full of ambitious men who smiled while plotting. This is what your grandfather might have known, and what powerful men have always understood. 3 words: just, but, should. You'll hear them everywhere now, in every conversation, every negotiation, every relationship. And the moment you do, you'll know. You'll know who's attempting to manipulate you, who's lying to you, who's claiming authority they don't possess, who perceives you as subordinate, who's performing versus who's being direct. Most men go their entire lives being justed, butted, and shoulded, without ever realizing they're being managed, controlled, exploited. You won't, because now you know what these words actually mean, and you can never unhear them. This is what Machiavelli documented 500 years ago. This is operational intelligence that powerful men have always deployed to separate truth from performance. And now it's yours. Deploy it.